In a nutshell, how would you summarize the film Anora, the recent Academy Award-winning film and also Palme d'Or winner? It's quite a polarizing film. Some people believe that it's well-deserving of its accolades, while others are quite underwhelmed by the film. Me, on the one hand, really enjoyed the film, and I think there's something else going on within the film that doesn't concern so much about the film as a worthy award winner. But besides being a, quote-unquote Cinderella story gone wrong, I think it's also a story about what it's like being an immigrant kid, trying to, find their own identity, which is caught between the forces of their adoptive home, in the case of the movie, United States of America, and their heritage home, so to speak, in terms of the film Anora, that would be Russia. Growing up in the 80s myself, I've seen many of my friends who have grown up in this immigrant child experience, often with a family member that is of great importance, not just in their own lives, but in the history of human evolutionary civilization, if that term makes any sense. And in the film Anora, I thought it was really interesting that the person we're going to talk about today that has such a great importance was mentioned primarily twice in the film. Once by Anora and another time by Igor, whom she, if you haven't seen the film yet, you might want to see the film first or whatever. Another Igor who mentions a person in his life who provided his means of a home in the United States and also a vehicle in the United States as well. On the one hand, we have Anora and the scene where she first meets Ivan in her place of employment, the adult strip club headquarters called in the film. And he asks her how she was able to speak Russian. And she mentions that her grandmother never learned to speak English. So because of her grandmother, she was able to build up her fluency in Russian. And then at the end of the film, the final dialogue between Anora and Igor went something as, Anora says, "This car is so you." Igor replies, "Do you like it?" And she says she hates it. And then he says it's his grandmother's. And it's because of these two bracketing scenes mentioning each other's respective grandmother that I'd like to propose that not only in the film, the role of the grandmother, it has, far-reaching effects for the characters in terms of their ability to adapt in their adoptive home, the United States of America, but also throughout human history, the role of grandmothers. And to help us take a look at the importance of grandmothers, I have this book that I read, quite long time ago, early 2000s, written by Helen Fisher, The First Sex. the natural talents of women and how they are changing the world. It's quite a fun book to read, full of interesting facts and insights. And you may first ask, who is Helen Fisher? And let me see if I can find the introduction and summarize who Helen Fisher is. Okay, so of course, at the end of the book here, we have about the author. I'll just read it, it's quite brief. Helen Fisher is an anthropologist at Rutgers University and the author of The Sex Contract, The Evolution of Human Behavior and Anatomy of Love, The Natural History of Monogamy, Adultery, and Divorce. For her books, articles, lectures, and television and radio appearances, Dr. Fisher received the American Anthropological Association's Distinguished Service Award in 1985. In the book, there is a somewhat brief chapter titled The Grandmother Hypothesis, which talks about the evolution of menopause and how it influenced the role, or plural that is, roles of grandmothers in society. Let's see, to just give you a hint of the idea, anthropologist Kirsten Hawkes of the University of Utah and several other anthropologists championed the idea that menopause evolved so that women could be effective at grandmothering. Quality over quantity. Stopping early enabled women to conserve their strength, avoid reproductive competition with their own daughters, and focus their energy on helping their living offspring, thereby improving their chances that their genes would be passed into tomorrow. Hawkes regards the evolution of menopause and grandmothering as one of the benchmarks of human evolution. She says, the grandmother hypothesis gives us a whole new way of understanding why modern humans suddenly were able to go everywhere and do everything. It may explain why we took over the planet. Also, another quote, this one not by Kirsten Hawkes, but by Margaret Mead. There is no greater power in the world than the zest of post-menopausal women, Margaret Mead reportedly said. Long ago, countless wise, clever, patient, knowledgeable, peaceful, middle-aged shepherds expended their energies to serve their kin and their community. Their young survived, selecting for menopause and the peaceful potency of feminine middle age. So, with just kind of briefly skimming the idea of how grandmothers were important in the film Anora, as well as in human evolution, I thought seeing the film and having these two bracketing parts of Anora, giving credit to her relationship with her grandmother, which enabled her to build up her speaking skills in Russian. And then Igor mentioning that the car he drives, this is grandmother's car. And in a previous scene in the film, he goes to his grandmother's house to get some form of medication to help out Ganik, who was feeling very nauseous and perhaps concussive because of Anora's self-defense in that great screwball-like comedy scene in the film. I really recommend to see the film. It's quite funny. It's a little bit hard on the ears, but I think it was a wonderful scene. So to answer the question, who is the most important character in Anora, I would have to say it is the grandmother. We never get to see her in the film, but we hear about how she impacted the lives of characters, Anora and Igor specifically. I mean, if you take a look in the film of how Anora interacted with, let's say, Diamond, another exotic dancer in the film that she worked with in the club headquarters, and her interaction with Ivan's mother and how combative and competitive they were to each other. It's a trait that's not solely based on the female gender, but we all know that males just naturally compete with each other too. It's I think very important that we acknowledge the help of our elders, especially those who are lucky enough to grow up with their grandmothers. And if your grandmother is alive, make sure to take some time and tell you love her and say thank you, not just to her but to anyone else in your life that has helped you reach as far as you are today. And this is as far as we'll go into this video. Just wanted to bring out this idea of the bracketing event that Anora and Igor shared, talking about their grandmothers. Which, oh, by the way, maybe is the reason why Anora, did what she did at the end of the film, because Igor mentioned his grandmother and how Anora at the beginning of the film, mentioned the importance of her grandmother in her own life. And that kind of incited her, falling into the arms of Igor. But I do recommend also take a look at this book by Helen Fisher. She has a lot of great books. I've read a lot of them, like Why We Love, How We Love, so to speak. My apologies to Dr. Fisher if I misquoted or misread her titles, but we live in the age of the internet. You can check out her biography, Dr. Helen Fisher. And this book specifically here, The First Sex, The Natural Talents of Women and How They Are Changing the World. Might help you out too in your writing as well. It's a really fun book to read. Really interesting book. Thanks again. Check out Anora once, twice, 3 times, as many times as you would like. Please make sure to drop in the comments if you've read anything by Helen Fisher as well, and what you thought of her books, and also what you thought of the film Anora, and if you too noticed the bracketing event of grandmother. All right, thanks very much, and catch you at the next one.